All right, just give me 1 second. All right, you're good to go.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the July rescheduled Augusta Land Bank meeting. Before we get started, a couple things. One of them is me turning off my phone.
Yeah, I'll turn mine off too.
Y'all bear with me just a second. I pray that everyone is doing well. Some of you may or may not know, my wife tested positive. And so,
Wow.
so if I look a little more casual than usual, it's because my boss put me out. And
No, I didn't know that.
Yes. So we're a little quarantined. She's retested, but the me and the kids, we all tested negative, but unfortunately she tested positive. So as the mayor would say, out of an abundance of caution, I'm not in the office right now, though they see me in the parking lot every day. Poor Ash is tasked with bringing me stuff to the car. But I pray that you and your family and everyone is doing well. Can't see the folks who are visiting with us on the Zoom meeting who are not part of the board, but I pray that everything is going well with you also. As is our tradition, we are going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm going to start from the top of the window pane, and I see Donna Tower. Hey, Donna, how you doing? And if you, ladies and gentlemen, will introduce yourselves, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Chris Johnson, Chief Deputy Tax Commissioner and Chairman of Augusta Georgia Land Bank. Lisa?
Lisa Williams, Coordinator, Augusta Georgia Land Bank Authority.
Ashley?
Ashley, Tax Commissioner's Office.
Chuck?
Charles Williams, Richmond County Tax Commissioner's Office.
Jeff?
Yeah, Jeff Poozer from the Richmond County Tax Commissioner's Office as well.
Lauren?
Lauren Dallas, Executive Director of Augusta Tomorrow.
And Lauren is a voting member as well. Rob and Donna?
Rob is on mute.
You're muted, Rob.
Hey, I'm Rob Sherman, Director of the Planning and Development Department and a member of the Land Bank.
And I see you have somebody with you.
Donna?
Hi, Donna Tower, Code Enforcement Supervisor.
And Terrence Winder, Code Enforcement Manager.
Hey, Terrence, I didn't see you hiding over there. Karen?
Hey, Karen Gordon, Garden City Jazz, Land Bank Authority Board Member.
Sean?
Sean Edwards, Executive Director, Land Bank Authority.
Okay, are we missing any board members, any of our?
Well, we're not missing, Mr. Chairman. You just don't see me.
I just can't see.
This is Alvino Ross, Chief Appraiser of the Board of Tax Assessors.
I see you, Albino.
I should have known. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and get started. Lisa sent out a copy of the monthly meeting from meeting minutes from our June 17th meeting. If you have not had an opportunity to take a look at it, please do so at this time. And then afterwards, I'll accept a motion for the floor.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded to accept the meeting minutes as written from June 17th. I'm actually call the voting members by name. All in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. I vote yes. Lauren?
Yes.
Albino?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And did I miss a member?
Karen.
Karen.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Okay, and the yeas have it. So we will accept the meeting minutes for June 17th. We'll go ahead and, before we get into the agenda,
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask,
yes, sir.
someone is throwing back a lot of feedback.
Does anybody have the YouTube link open by chance?
Anybody?
Stopped when Alvino said that.
It's quiet. It's quiet. It seems quieter now, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that was Sean, but I'm just going to move.
Somebody told on somebody.
Okay, before we get into the agenda, John Manton is not with us today. Our attorney's not with us. We do have 2 items for executive session, but because John is not with us today, we need to do a call meeting. I need to know who is available for Monday. There's 2 items, should not take us more than about 10-15 minutes to do those. And what voting members are available on Monday? Karen is available. Lauren is available. How about you, Karen?
What time, Mr. Chairman?
What's a
Karen,
good time? What's a good time?
I'm available all day pretty much.
Okay.
Rob?
I will not be available from, say, 9:45 till 11.
So don't do the morning.
Okay.
Everybody available sometime in the afternoon or early morning?
Afternoon works great on my calendar.
Okay. How does one work for you, Lauren and Karen? Lauren is good. Rob is good. Alvino's good. Karen, you good?
I'm good. Yes.
Okay. So Lisa, if you'll do for 1 o'clock on
Yes,
Monday,
sir.
you'll
Got
send
it.
out, and that is for executive session. So for any who are listening, you certainly can. It will still be a public meeting. However, we will go into executive session to have the discussion. Okay. Item 2A. Item 2B. Approve request from Katrina Moore Bailey to purchase parcel at 2106 Grand Boulevard. Mr. Edwards.
Okay, good afternoon. 2106 Grand Boulevard is a property in our inventory. It's one that we actually went into an agreement with back in 2011. Payment plan was accepted. However, the purchaser ceased making payments. We went back and doing some research as we were going through inventory in light of all of the things going on recently with the commission. We're able to find the buyer, Ms. Bailey, and she is still interested in purchasing this property for the total of $2,650, which was the original agreement. So it's our recommendation that we not enter into a new payment plan since she's prepared to cut a check, that we go ahead and sell her the property at the $2,650 that was originally agreed to for 2106 Grand Boulevard. And we're ready to close.
Can I just add something?
Go right ahead, Lisa.
Also, that I sent the information to you, Rob, about the attached liens. And so we would have to go ahead and get you to go ahead and okay that the liens be deleted on subject parcel, as we must convey it with a clear title.
So when you're asking me that, you're asking me to do what? Because I can't approve removing the liens except as a voting member of the land bank.
Correct. Yeah, Rob, that point goes back to the conversation you and I had and an email that I forwarded to you. So it was agreed to at the time of entering into this payment plan with Ms. Bailey that upon completion of all payments, Land Bank would then sell the property to her with all liens removed. We elected to hold the property in our name because she was making payments at the time. Of course, you wouldn't transfer title, but did not remove the liens back in 2011. So as part of the motion, it does need to be requested that liens are removed to ensure that title is clear when John sells the property. And so it would be a part of a land bank vote but we want to make sure that it's also on record that there is no desire for the city to collect on those liens, since the Land Bank Board doesn't have the authority to extinguish them.
Okay, you don't see a lien on it?
We'll get it through the lien, but we want to double check.
Okay, Donna's checking right now to see if there's a lien. It's a demo lien on this property?
Yeah, well, I know it's on one, I can't, yeah, it is one on that one. Yes, it is. Yes,
On
a
that one?
demo lien, and I think it might be a maybe 2 or 3 cleanups.
Yeah.
Legacy.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, we don't have a problem with the lien being removed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I have a motion to approve.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded by Lauren Dallas, made by Rob Sherman, properly seconded by Lauren Dallas, to sell the property to Miss Katrina Moore Bailey in the originally agreed price for $2,650, which includes removal of liens. All in favor? I'll call by name. Lauren,
Yes.
Alvino,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
and it's a yes for me, and so the yeas have it. Item 2C, approve request from Tim Thomas to purchase parcel at 1793 MLK Boulevard. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, but somebody got noise going on in the background.
Okay. I'm sure they will mute it in just a second. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir. 1793 MLK Jr. Mr. Tim Thomas entered into an agreement to purchase this property also under an installment plan back in 2016. There was an interruption in those payments. We've since made contact with him. He's ready to close on the property at the agreed to price of $39.45. It's an adjacent property to his business, and he's continued to use the lot as part of his parking. So we did not think there was any need to negotiate. His business is operating. He should be able to afford to cut this check. And so
He already cut the check.
we already cut the check. So we basically asked y'all, can we put it in the bank? There is a lien against the property that, as part of the motion, we would be requesting to be removed. It's a demo lien for $1,710. And so the recommendation is that we approve.
And what was that? What was the price of the property again?
$39.45.
$39.45.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second. Karen.
Motion has been made by Rob Sherman and properly seconded by Karen Gordon to approve the sale of the property at 1793 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to Mr. Tim Thomas in the amount of $3,945, including removal of an existing lien. All in favor, I'll call by name. Lauren Dallas.
Yes.
Alvino Ross.
Yes.
Rob Sherman.
Yes.
Karen Gordon.
Yes.
And it is a yes for me as well. So that motion is approved. Item 2D, approve request for Marcia Hudson, purchase parcel at 2301 Wheelers Road. Mr. Edwards.
And so 2301 Wheelers Road is a property that came before you last month. It was a donation, but had some concerns that were expressed by the board. Not only its location, not being a corner lot, being behind a guardrail, not being one that has a tremendous amount of buildable area because of the creek that runs behind it. And we want to make sure that we took all those things into account. So the chairman and I had an opportunity, after suggestion by Mr. Welcher, to go down to the site, reviewed it, and then sent some correspondence over to planning where Kevin Boyd gave me some specifications of what would have to happen for any business to take the site and do anything with it. But while there, we had a chance to have a conversation with the owner of the hot dog stand at the adjacent lot, and we found out that they are renting. They're very interested in purchasing the location that they're at the corner, wanted to expand their business, but the amount of money that the property owner wanted was exuberant. So I spoke with Mr. Hudson and Mrs. Hudson about the lot that we were going to be receiving as a donation. They immediately want to make sure that it would meet their specifications. And as I said, Kevin Boyd, the planner, was able to answer all of their questions about setbacks, parking, all of those requirements. They like the answers, and they have offered a total of $42.68 for the purchase of that lot that we were receiving as a donation. So the recommendation is, of course, that we sell that parcel.
Move to approve.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. I'm
There
sorry.
There was a church that was interested in that property that was the reason why we brought it up for discussion again. I mean, obviously the bird in the hand right now, because it was a kind of less than desirable property. I mean, last thing I want to do is, you know, upset someone that was interested in it, but I mean, they're not interested in it.
That is correct.
The church?
Chris, you're muted.
You're muted, Mr. Chairman.
Just in case it was me with the feedback. Sean, the same day, Lauren, that Sean and I had a chance to go out and take a look at the property, the pastor of the church called and said, hey, me and my administrative board are having some serious discussions about path forward. So right now, we're just going to say we're not interested right now. If it's there in the future, once we are able to get on the same page, then certainly, we'll be interested then. But they let us know that same day that they weren't able to get on the same page. And as Sean already mentioned, he and I went out, took a look at the property, and while looking at the property, he was able to speak to the owners of the local hot dog stand, as he already detailed.
Can I add to that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I actually was requested by Pastor Smallwood to go and talk with his board. 4 members of the trustee board showed, as well as the pastor. We met at the sanctuary. The property that they currently own on the other side of Millersville Road, of course, they are trying to work with housing and community development to do some affordable housing. What the pastor saw as the potential for this lot was its value versus its potential sales price, and thought about the possibility of being able to get this donation from us and flip it to get those funds to put into their housing in. But as Mr. Johnson said, their board was not on the same page with that. And so they're going to continue their work with HCD, working on affordable housing, and they had no issue whatsoever with us moving forward to find another buyer.
Hot dog sounds great to me.
Especially right now.
What she said?
So I have a motion. I have a motion.
My daughter's making hot dogs, Lauren, and you would say,
I have a motion to approve from Albino. Do I have a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Mr. Albino Ross and properly seconded by Lauren Dallas to accept the parcel at 2301 Wheelers Road from Ms. Marcia Hudson into the land bank. All in favor, aye, and I'll call by name. Lauren?
Yes.
Albino?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And it is a yes from me. And so that motion approved.
hey, Steve.
Item 2E, approve request from owner Mary Hawkins to accept a donation of the parcel located at 3740 Wrightsboro Road. Mr. Edwards?
Jeff, can you share, or can I do a screen share getting admin control?
Yes, you have rights to share right now.
I'm gonna pull this site so that y'all can see it before delving in, if y'all don't mind. So let me try that again because that didn't work.
Oh, there.
Are y'all able to still see maps coming up?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm sure almost everyone that's driven past this area has seen cars parked at the old well off Wrightsboro Road as you approach Bel Air / Jimmy Dias going toward Columbia County. From what I understand from the Hawkins family, it's been in their family for generations, and they've continued to allow from that well and pump residents and even non-residents to come and get free well water. The well does expand beyond their lot, being an underground well, and probably could be accessed from other lots that are also private. But because it's always been made free and available to people who need to have access to either water with more minerals or just are in a position where they don't have drinking water at home, the family's never charged anything. Mr. Hawkins's sons both have now gone into legal fields and have expressed concerns to the family about continuing to own that piece of property. Folks have seen the signs out there that you pump water at your own risk. But the concern in these days and times is that if someone were to slip, fall, it just would fall back on the family. So they approached us about taking that donation in and making that service still available for free to residents of the county. Of course, I saw an economic opportunity to it because well water is valuable. But I think that there's the possibility of good discussion with the city of Augusta that owns the parcel right behind it. And if it would do unidentified, you can see. And allow the city to take this donation once we have it in inventory to simply add to land that they already have. There's a social element to accepting this land, continuing to be able to provide that service to persons of need in Richmond County. But there are risks, as expressed by Mr. Hawkins' sons to their father. Those would be the same concerns I would express to the board, that even if we have the property for a day, as has been explained to us from our attorney, if we take it in and something were to happen, we were part of the chain of title as formerly owning it. So I know that I've drank water out of that well before. I would hate for that parcel to be sold to somebody, put in private hands, and now they want to charge poor people. But we are cautious in the recommendation because we don't have confirmation from any department, be that utilities, be that engineering, whomever, that Augusta wants it. So we've got it kind of open for discussion to the board. Because I've taken advantage of that site, because I know the need in that area to have access to clean drinking water, because of the demographics financially of persons who live in that area. I want us to be able to do it, but it is not something I'm requesting of the board to be a long-term hold. I would like to be able to receive the donation with plans of getting it transferred to the city. And so I'm asking for your consideration to start those conversations to ensure that that's going to be the route. But I'm prepared to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Sean, have we talked to any of the departments, specifically like engineering and utilities, and received a response from them?
I have spoken with Kayla Cooper in utilities. Tom doesn't want it.
Okay.
So Tom, he doesn't want it.
How about Dr. Malik?
I've not had a chance to hear from Dr. Malik. I've reached out to engineering to see if it's something that they'd be interested in. At this point, it would really be a matter of, at least in my opinion, because the inventory of Augusta is managed under central services, I think I need to have a conversation with Mrs. Doss and then allow for an executive session for the commission to be able to see and discuss it. I wanted to find somebody who wanted it on the back end so that Takia would have the chance when she went into executive session to say, if we receive it, such and such department wants it. But as I said, I have no response from engineering, and utilities has already said they don't.
Yeah, I think we should have that discussion with Takia. I hear you, Rob. Just 1 second. And also, and Rob, you correct me if I'm wrong. I do think because of the potential liability to the city that this is something that probably should come before commission. Rob, you were going to say.
Well, I agree with your last comment there. The property's in the floodplain, and if it was accepted, it could just be put into this category of floodplain buyout properties. And then the city, I guess through the law department, could decide if they want to leave that pad there. And I would think that they would want to leave it there so people can continue to get water from the well. But it wouldn't be, it's not developable property, but it could go into that floodplain group.
Understood.
Hey,
Go ahead.
I actually have like several hundred questions about it. I'd love to get more information about the possibilities for this particular property. And I think it would be a huge gain for something creative. We just have to, talk about it, figure it out.
Okay.
So I know we're not ready for a vote, but I vote yes. So there you go.
Anybody else? Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I could address Ms. Gordon's statement.
Yes.
When the conversation started with the Hawkins family, immediately I started thinking about possibilities as well. I can't say that Karen and I were probably thinking the same things. I'm not thinking artistic, I'm thinking money. But
we know.
We got to. But I don't think that it's one for the land bank to do a long-term hold on. I think we become a conduit to put that into the appropriate hands, be that City of Augusta, be that nonprofit organization.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to see, as I said, I didn't want to see a private person buy the land and stop folks who need access to that well from having it.
Yes.
But I can't, in good conscience, come to y'all as my board and make a recommendation for you to take on liability based on social matters. So, I mean, if the city does not want the property after taking the appropriate routes, assuming that that's the motion to instruct me to go to Mrs. Dawson and plan for executive session. But if the city does not want it, of course, I'll continue my due diligence with other organizations that may be of interest. But I didn't see us being more than that. Now, if we want to get into the bottling business, we'll do okay. But I just want to clarify that I'm not presenting before the board in any way that we hold this for some significant period of time.
Well, you ladies and gentlemen know that I'm not very risk averse. As a matter of fact, y'all have to tamper me down most of the time. But I am a little concerned about a long-term hold of this particular property in the land bank, just because of the litigious environment that we live in. And so, but I really do believe that it is something that we should add to the city's inventory if the city is interested. So I make a motion that Mr. Edwards contacts Ms. Dowse and other entities in the city to see if they have an interest in the land bank acquiring this property on the city's behalf. Do I have a second?
Second, Karen.
Motion has been made and properly seconded to have Executive Director Edwards contact Central Services Director Takia Dowse, as well as any other city entity, to acquire the property located at 3740 Wrightsboro Road on behalf of the city. All in favor, I will call by name. Lauren Dallas.
Yes.
Alvino Ross.
Yes.
Rob Sherman.
Yes.
Karen Gordon.
Yes.
It is a yes for me as well. And so, Mr. Edwards, if you will make that contact, please.
Yes, sir.
I hope that this is not one of those years later after this becomes a multi-million-dollar profitable piece of real estate that we don't look back and say, God, I wish we'd have kept this one. But the the liability is a bit much for me.
Understand completely. And I would love to be a part of the conversation, these conversations as well.
And I think that we probably want to make those, to the city, not, just making an assumption that they will accept it. And I'm sure they're going to have some questions about what to do with it once they have it. But it's more likely going to be exactly what Rob said. Is going to add it to the floodplain and go from there. Item F, approve foreclosure request from Sherman and Him Street on behalf of Gateway to Augusta, LLC, for land bank's assistance with foreclosure on property at 832 Hawkins Street. Mr. Edwards.
This is a part of a project that y'all have had a chance to see, review, and vet in executive session in the past. It is the same group to whom we sold the properties once owned on James Brown Boulevard. It is the apartment complex, the James, that has been publicly announced by Sherman and Him Street. They are still working with the planning department regarding parking. And yet another lot is necessary for them to be able to try to accommodate that necessary conditions. So they are requesting foreclosure on 832 Hopkins, and we are recommending to the board for approval.
Hard and smiling. What was that? I'll make a motion to accept it or to foreclose on it.
Second.
Chris, you're muted.
Chris, you're muted.
Sorry, I had one of my church students that just saw. Motion has been made by Rob Sherman and properly seconded by Lauren Dallas to accept or to foreclose on the property at 832 Hopkins on behalf of Gateway to Augusta via Sherman and Him Street. All in favor, aye, starting with Ms. Dallas.
Yes.
Mr. Ross.
Yes.
Mr. Sherman.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes.
And that is a yes for me, so that passes. Item 3A, discuss and approve so it's voting time. I tell you what, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna do that one, I'm gonna make that one D. So let's do the updates first and then we'll do the vote. Item 3B, update on commission agenda item, Mr. Edwards.
For those who tuned in for over 4 hours yesterday, you've seen that for the third time, we have been pushed to the next meeting. But as the commission was closing out, they did vote to go back to having both committee and commission meetings. And so we have to touch base with Ms. Bonner's office to find out if we've been pushed to the up and coming committee, which will be Tuesday, or if we will remain on commission agenda, which will push us out to the following week. Just a quick update on how that item has kind of morphed. At one point in time, it was solely abolished the Land Bank Authority. It has since transformed into, as part of a secondary motion that was submitted and approved, to request information from us regarding the total of our inventory, policies and procedures, the means by which we operate, and then of course, all of the necessary addendums were also sent. They gave us our authority under the state. We haven't received any individual questions as of yet, but as I stated, we've now been pushed to the next agenda. So we'll see what ends up happening when we come back around for the fourth time.
Any comments, questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Edwards. Also, item 3C, any update on demolitions and vacant lot maintenance?
Yeah, so kind of a companion item a little bit to the commission, and then also kind of companion to, what is the operational expenses one. But staying in this vein for a minute, we recognized when the motion came up, even though the inventory that we hold is greater than that which we're responsible for. We currently have over 320 properties in our inventory today. 84 of those are ours. And so we're holding for utilities department, we're holding for housing and community development. But at the end of the day, when you look on GIS, the owner says Land Bank Authority. And that can say Augusta, Georgia, or Richmond County, or whomever, but it says Land Bank. We did need to take a look at what we actually feel that we own, that 84, and we had to make some decisions. And so I went ahead and procured a company to go into strategic areas based upon current development, housing and community development specifically. What of our parcels needed to be cut to not infringe upon their development areas? We have 71 vacant lots in that inventory. I made a decision on 47 because we couldn't afford to cut 71. But again, they were in strategic areas of impact of 13 houses that are of some age. 6 of which we will be looking to push over, again, being in strategic areas where there's current development. So we're gonna have to take on some costs in order to be able to get our inventory under control as well. At one point in time, we had a better working relationship with environmental services where we could make a phone call to deal with overgrown lots, to deal with trees that had fallen. But in this climate right now, we have to just take on the financial responsibility of it. And as I stated, I had to make a decision. I want to make sure that it made sense as I explained it to my board. So we looked in the Twig Circle development node, Heritage Pines, work that is happening in Old Town or expected to happen in Old Town, and then in Sand Hills. I didn't go into lots that weren't reachable from a major street. I didn't concern myself with properties that were off of lanes. I want to make sure that the resources we were about to spend were going to have the most impact. And so again, 47 of 71 lots and 6 out of 13 houses. And I'll answer any questions that you have.
Sean, what is that cost going to look like?
So we got the landscaping company down from a bid of $63,685 down to $35,285. That's all your lots cut. We got $111,200 demolition down to $59,100. But we're getting ready to spend 90 grand. 94 grand. Now, if I may, Mr. Chairman, if I could kind of tie that to the expenses and income, that may make my board feel a little bit better.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, so taking this secondary item, we understand that we're getting ready to spend more money at this time over the course of this year. If you add in 930 DeAntonac Street, that was an emergency demolition after the fire. We're doing more cleanup probably than in the history of the organization. That's 100,000 plus that would have been spent during this calendar year. But we've consistently managed each of our projects with a plan of ensuring that money is coming back to the organization. So although these are large numbers, 400 East Boundaries contract for purchase is fully executed, and there is an executed contract for sale. That was a parcel that we had concerns about when it was brought to this board in 19, but we were able to find a buyer, and from that deal, we're gonna make 53 grand. 930 DeAntonac, even after having to do demolition on that site and incur that cost as part of an emergency bid through procurement, we were able to go back to the original buyer, renegotiate pricing with them, understanding we had new costs. And now instead of getting $20,000 for 3 parcels, we're gonna get 31 for 2. We're consistently pushing to ensure that even though these kind of things have to happen, we're getting new revenue. And a point that I wanted to also make, just on today's agenda alone from your approvals, you've already brought in $11,000. And this is property that's in inventory, not foreclosures. We're sitting on another check that is a part of a motion that you'll discuss in executive session on Monday, and a major agreement as part of that as well. So Lisa and I are consistent on making sure that even though we ask of you large decisions financially to manage things like inventory, expenses for operations, that we're putting the necessary funds in the bank accounts for you to feel comfortable that those decisions can be made without needing to lean on outside sources. Thank you.
Questions, comments? You know, when Sean and I first discussed this, there's a reason why I mentioned how much it's going to cost, because that's the first thing. As much as we know we need to do this, and we do, as Sean has mentioned, we don't have the same level of service from the environmental services that we used to have, but that is what it is. But we do still have these properties, and we have to do something with them. And so my first concern was, how much is this going to cost, and will we be able to afford it? Sean and Lisa have done a great job of going out and bringing in business. And even though we've had some occurrences to happen this year that were unexpected, some major occurrences that were unexpected, because of the work that they're out there doing, we've been fortunately been able to cover them. We have these properties. We're a land bank. That means we're always going to have property, and we have to make sure that they're maintained. That's just the bottom line on that. So thank you for the work that you've done.
Mr. Chairman, this is Hawthorne.
Hey, Hawk.
Hey, I would also, I have not looked at those. I would like the opportunity to sort of look at some of those 80 plus properties. And, you know, of course, we're pushing scattered site by some of our chodos and nonprofit, of course, and in different project areas across Augusta. So I would be willing to have my staff work with Sean to sort of look at some of those properties to see how potentially we may be able to purchase some, you know, for scattered site affordable housing development as well. So I put that off the top. I cleared up the land, of course.
We know your pockets are deep, Hawthorne, and we really appreciate that. No, certainly, your team and John and Lisa get together, and that would be great if that can occur.
Yeah, so I just want to put that out on the record that, you know, just hearing the concern with it, yes. We'll try to look at that as another possibility as well.
We appreciate that.
Okay.
Any more comments or questions on demolitions and vacant lot maintenance?
Hawthorne. Who you want me to send the inventory to so that they can look at the parcels that's in the land bank?
Okay, all right, that'll be good.
Huh?
All right, thank you.
She's looking for a name. She's looking for a name, Hawthorne.
Who you want me to send the property listing to? Because we need to get this thing going if we got somebody want to buy some parcels.
Send it to me. Just send it to me.
Yes,
that way
sir.
I can control and make sure it goes out the right way.
Thank you very much. I'll do that, okay?
And then I'll make sure that I copy you and Sean on the email as well.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Okay, you're welcome.
Go ahead, Rob.
I was wondering about adding a closing line item for all the properties that we sell. I realize it's not going to generate a lot of revenue, but even if we add $100 to $200 per closing to fund property maintenance, and it wouldn't be negotiable. It's sort of like the attorney's fee. It's a flat fee. You have to pay $100 at each closing, and it goes directly to just to a maintenance fund.
Speaking of attorney fee, Sean.
I'm with you.
Okay.
So just last year, you approved increasing our administrative and application fees. We do have a sliding scale for city departments and nonprofits to reduce those slightly, but I am not against in any way bringing to you a secondary fee that would allow for inventory that's coming in or out to contribute to maintenance. I think that's just a decision of the board once I write something up as to how you want that to kind of look. I remind you all of the culture shock that we kind of dealt with when fees increased, because we went from $125 to $1,000. but now everyone is accustomed to it. So I'm all in favor of putting a recommendation before you, maybe as early as executive session Monday, but definitely by our August meeting, to where you're in a position to vote on a maintenance fee that's charged on every property.
Well, Rob, I think that is certainly something that we should consider. Let's talk that one through, and then at our next meeting, let's have that up for discussion.
How long has Connie been out? I thought she was on vacation.
She was.
I hear you, Alvino. Okay, do we have
So
anything
she
else
was out
on
Thursday and Friday
Mr. Ross?
on vacation.
Alvino,
Work on Mondays.
She's
somebody text Alvino.
off on Monday. She was
Do we have
scheduled to get
anything
back
else
here
on
Tuesday.
demolition and vacant lot maintenance? Okay, so then let's move on to items
Ms.
D.
Brigham, how can I help?
I don't have
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate you, boss. Operational expenses versus project income. Mr. Edwards, you're muted.
My apologies. That in part is what we just covered, Mr. Chairman, as we talked about those projects that have been coming to help be able to cover the expenses that we now have on the table. In addition to that, there is one service / expense that I'm planning to present to y'all about August's meeting. The maintenance company that is going to take care of these lots has shown an interest in a property, yet another donation from University Foundation. It is one that's within a floodplain, so it can't be built out for anything, but what they run is a lawn care business. So the fact that the field floods is not of concern for them because it's going to have trees on it and, you know, sod and things of that nature. So they are wanting to work up potentially an agreement. We haven't gotten through all the details as of yet, that they would maintain future lot cuttings, essentially as a swap for mortgage that would be paid to pay off this parcel. So as we stated with the 400 East Boundary, the 930 DeAntonite deals, we're consistently trying to use the inventory to be able to supply service. If I'm successful, we'll take a piece of property that we were paid to take in. We will transfer it to another organization that's going to help them with job creation because they'll have people now that can be out on site. And we'll have maintenance of our lots to always have them cut and no longer have that need for the assistance from environmental services. We can't hear you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I like that. I like that. That is a good barter.
I love it.
Have accomplished. Okay. If there's no more comments about the operational expenses versus project income, let's go back to board elections. As you ladies and gentlemen will remember, last month we had a marathon meeting. And as a result of that, we had a couple items that we just had to push out to month. One of them is our vote for chairman, co-chairman, and then of course we need to make a decision about treasury, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But before we go to the treasury, let's go ahead and do chairman and co-chair. Right now, I serve as the chairman of the Augusta, Georgia Land Bank, and Rob Sherman serves as the co-chair. And I am certainly willing to continue in that role if the board sees fit. Do we have any other interested parties in chairman of the board?
Question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Is your term chairman and co-chair or chairman and vice chair?
Actually, I have to take a look.
Co-chair would indicate y'all hold the same position. Vice chair would be they serve at your pleasure. serve when you're in absence.
So
When
I believe
this is not
the bylaws say vice chair.
vice chair.
okay.
Yeah.
That was my fault. I'll change it.
I'm actually in the car, so I can't look at my bylaws right
Yeah, I'll change it.
I wrote them.
Yes, sir.
now.
I'm not even second guessing because I know you on point.
So the correction is the positions for chair and vice chair. Do we have anyone else who is interested in being chairman? Typically, I would step out of the room.
Somebody got to close the nomination. You got to get a nomination, and somebody got to close the nomination.
I nominate Chris as chair.
I nominate Rob as vice chair. Oh, I'm sorry. I was probably supposed to say something different. I support that.
Okay, so Rob has nominated.
Somebody vote to close the nominations.
A vote to close nominations.
Okay, so there are two nominations for both me as chair and Rob as vice chair. And Lauren Dallas has moved to close the nomination. Take that as a vote. I'm sorry, y'all. Somebody went to rev their engine down here at the lake. I apologize. Can't mute it. Do we have a vote to close the nomination?
Make a motion to close the nomination, but a question, do we need to vote on the secretary at this point?
Let's discuss both the secretary and the treasury after we do the chair and vice chair.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close the nomination.
A second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded to close the nominations with Chris Johnson serving as chair and Rob Sherman serving as vice chair. All in favor, aye. Lauren?
Aye.
Rob voting for me and me voting for you. I vote for Rob. Rob, I'm assuming?
Yes.
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 And then, of course, Karen?
Yes.
And Mr. Ross? Mr. Ross? Ask Aaliyah to call up again, please.
Yes, sir. They need you to vote. Get back on. Oh.
Mr. Ross?
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
I can. Did you hear the nominations? Alvino?
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hold up, Coleman. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Alvino? Alvino? And thus the wonderful world of Zoom.
He's muted, but he now has earphones in. So, Mr. Ross, if you can unmute.
Okay, am I 100% good?
You're 100%.
Yes, we hear you. Do you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Sherman has nominated me as chair, and I believe it was Lauren who nominated Rob as, it was Karen. Karen nominated Rob as vice chair, and Lauren has
I can't.
Make a motion to close the nominations. And so everyone has voted and it is your turn.
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
on the
All right.
motion.
All right. And
I hate to disappear on you. I just got an emergency, that's all.
understood. No explanation needed. I understand.
Very well.
So as per the vote, I will remain as chairman. Rob Sherman will remain as vice chair. And now let's go to the discussion of secretary and treasurer. Right now, what has happened is that Lisa has served as our Lisa, who is the coordinator for the land bank, has served as the secretary, and we have not had a treasurer. We have a finance committee that has served that role. I believe that as far as secretary, I think we should continue to have Lisa as the secretary, and I'll certainly entertain any discussion about that. And I also believe that we should have rather than have the treasury position, we should actually have the finance committee position. Questions, comments? Okay. I make a motion that Lisa Williams, land bank coordinator, be the secretary for the Augusta, Georgia Land Bank. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second for Lisa Williams to be the land bank secretary. All in favor, aye. Mr. Sherman?
Aye.
Ms. Dallas?
Yes.
Ms. Gordon?
Yes.
Ms. Ross? I mean, Mr. Ross, I'm sorry.
He's muted again.
Last Thursday, she's indicating she started having symptoms.
We kind of want him muted on that part of the conversation.
I got it. Hold on.
I understand. Tell him I got 2 more votes and we'll be finished with it.
Oh, gosh.
You won't answer. Hey, just as a side note, the term of secretary, the position of secretary is not an officer's position with the authority. It probably does not require you to have to vote for her to keep notes as secretary for your organization. You only have treasurer as a listed position. So you probably could get by, since that secretary has no official way and no official position as signing of documents or things like that. It's probably not even necessary. It's not a part of the bylaw.
And what about the treasurer?
The treasurer can serve as the secretary, both. They can serve that combined. It doesn't require that you have a treasurer, but a treasurer position is available, and it is an officer of the authority. Right now, y'all just don't have one. So you serve with a chair and vice chair, and you take care of your secretarial and your financial duties through other staff, and that's perfectly appropriate.
Okay. All right. And since we're having some issues with Mr. Ross, Mr. Ross, you there? Okay. I believe we take the recommendation of Commissioner Kendrick and continue to have Lisa serve in the role of secretary and treasury, knowing that we also have a finance committee that also handles financial recommendations to the board.
For the record, I just sent Lisa the latest copy of the bylaws for her to distribute to everybody just for their review.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Okay. Congratulations, Rob. Congratulations, me. I think I will just tell y'all a real quick funny story before we leave. I had been on the land bank for all of one meeting, and Rob Sherman, who had been on since its inception, looked at me and said, You got 30 days, and then it's gonna be your turn.
You're doing a good job, Chris.
Thank you, sir. And
Look at you now.
I appreciate you.
Sean,
I-
what about taxes? Can y'all
Go
hear
ahead.
me?
Yes, go ahead.
Don't we need to reelect the tax assessor?
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
So as it relates to y'all's positions that serve on the board, when they expire until the commission decides to appoint with someone else, they serve as holdover seats. So both Chris's seat, everybody's seat there until they vote, they all still are on ballot.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We don't have any more items. Sean, is that everything?
Yes, sir.
We don't have any more items. Just a reminder, you will receive an email from Lisa concerning our call meeting for Monday, which will be executive session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. Continue to remain safe, and y'all have a good day.
Chris, I hope you watch as well.
Yes, I'm here.
So, I guess I'll just email you, right?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. Well, you know what I need already, right? You know I need that Zoom. Okay.
The recording?
I know I need a Zoom meeting for Monday.
Yeah, I've already set it up.
Okay.
But do send me the calendar request, okay?
I will. I'll do that tomorrow, okay?